Good Friday morning, everyone. Thanks for joining the Market Chameleon pre-market show with this me, Dmitry Porgamatic. How you doing, D?
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Good. You want to start with the disclaimer?
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, keep in mind, Will and I and Market Chameleon, we're not a registered investment advisor. We're not a broker-dealer. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need advice, call your registered investment advisor, call your broker. That's what they're there for. There's the disclaimer.
All righty.
And I'm going to share my screen. As I'm doing that, quick note, if you guys are joining us for the first time, Will and I, we do these shows in the morning to try to help answer questions you may have about the Market Chameleon tools, the data, the analytics. If you have a question, type it into that live chat on YouTube. Will's watching it. He'll read it back to me. If you want to come on the show, ask your question live. We also click on that link to Zoom. Once you log into Zoom, there's a button, raise your hand. Click on that. Lets us know you have a question. Once we let you in, you could ask it live direct. And to give you guys a couple minutes to put in the questions, what we'll do is start out taking a look at the pre-market report to see if we could get insights, what's going on in the pre-market hours, and then we'll move on to the questions. So pre-market report, these are stocks that are currently trading in pre-market hours. We'll start out up here. We have a calendar that allows us to go back days to look at what happened in the pre-market hours. Historically, today we're October 27th. This is what's going on so far. We have 450 stocks that are trading higher in the pre-market hour, 192 stocks trading lower. As far as volume goes, we have 89 million shares trading higher versus 47.9 million shares trading lower. And as far as if we convert those shares to dollar value, because not every stock is the same price, we have $2.7 billion worth of stock trading on up volume versus 584.5 million on down volume. So that indicates to us that the trading so far in the pre-markets are, have a bullish bias and bullish sentiment. Let's look at a couple more perspectives. We're going to scroll down here, and we have this view where we have three lists. We have the most active stocks in the pre-market hours, the biggest percentage gainers, the biggest percentage decliners. I see 98 stocks made our biggest percentage gainers list, 36 on the decliners. From that perspective, also looks like so far there's more bullish sentiment in the pre-market hours. And to make this list, we do put in thresholds that we set for liquidity, volume, price changes. And if you look at the list, we do have a lot of stocks in there that could be small cap stocks, ETFs. It's any security that's listed on a major US exchange. It's trading in pre-market hours and it meets our thresholds. It can make this list. So to narrow it down to a smaller group of stocks, we could use the filters above. If you have a watch list, you could filter by your watch list. We're going to use this one in this example in ETF. When you click on it, you get a drop-down menu to select from. So there are different ETFs. You got broad-based ETF, sector ETF. So we're going to click on this one, SPY. That's the S&P 500 ETF. When we do that, the list below gets filtered by stocks that are holdings in the SPY ETF. And these are the S&P 500 constituents. And here we see 16 stocks made our percentage gainers list, 11 on the decliners. So also this indicates slightly more bullish bias at the open. And we still have some earnings flowing in. I think Intel reported earnings right here. So that's this little E. That's an indicator that there's an earnings announcement either yesterday after the market close, could be today before the market opens. once we detect that press release, we make that alert, and the stocks are most likely that's what they're reacting to in those situations. But here, and I think Amazon actually, right? Amazon.
Yeah, I was going to say American consumer seems to be very strong, or at least spending their money as fast as they can. I don't know, but
yeah. So the GDP numbers were good, right? Here's Amazon. I just clicked on it. So if we scroll down here, this is what's going on in Amazon. It's up 5.4% in the pre-market hours. So I could see here, over here, this is how it's moving in the pre-market hours. There's some big volume right there. These are the breaks down the data into volume bars, so we could see where what prices did the most trading cluster around, right? So here we can see these two bars. Those were the prices I'm hovering over where we see the biggest volume. If we look at the volume breakdown besides these bars, we do see some here, like some air bubbles here where we went from one place to the other without a lot of volume. If we break down this volume into trader type, we see that a decent amount of institutional trading is going on in pre-market hours, professional, retail, but it looks like some big trades are occurring in the pre-market hours. And this is the distribution between the dark pool and lit exchange. So where we see the biggest, which is interesting, you see where we see the biggest volume, we see much higher participation in a dark pool. Look up here, there's barely anything in the dark pool. Then we saw some more liquidity access in the dark pool around those big bars. But as we float away from it, you could see that less dark pool participation, which is probably why those markets are starting to move, because they have to access the lit exchanges. Once you access the lit exchange liquidity, you're going to start moving prices, right? Because that's the last place to access the liquidity. And once you do that, and you're taking things off the limit order books, you're going to start moving prices. So this is Amazon. I'm just going to take a look at its earnings, how it behaved historically. So you could see here, these are Amazon's. Oh, by the way, do we have a question? Sorry, Will. That's a couple minutes. If we have questions, I'll go to the questions.
We didn't have any questions pop up, D.
Okay. So here we have Amazon's historical earnings dates and the distribution of stock returns on those dates. So we could take a look at how it tended to behave. So you could see here on the opening gap that it was slightly more down than up, 55% higher, lower, 45% higher. Today we're higher, 5.4%. At the open, we see the average move up or down on average was 7%, with a high move of 12.1, low move of 1.3. So we're in that range, a little bit below, the average right now. If we look at how the stock behaved after the open, here we see from the open to the high of the day, the average move was up 2.1%. From the open to the low of the day, average move is down 2.3%. So that looks fairly, equal. It's not, maybe a little bit more or a little bit less liquid to the downside. So the moves are a little bit greater to the downside than the upside, but almost even there. As far as from the open to the close, we see that more often it sold down been up. So 64% of the time it tended to drift lower. And the average move from the open to the close was 2.1%. So you could see that it still has some decent volatility even after the open, right? About another 2.1% move after the open. So that's really quickly, looking at the historical behavior, Amazon return distributions of Amazon around earnings or post earnings. I had a question. Let me go to SPY. So a couple things with this price action. I'm going to come over here. And we're updating this and you're going to see more and more stats around the intraday analysis of stock. And I'm just going to choose SPY because that's my default stock. So keep in mind SPY, that's the S&P 500 ETF, which, that ETF, besides the volume in the ETF, a lot of it is influenced by what the components are doing, what's going on in the futures and so forth. But I'm just using this as an example of what's going on. So this is a breakdown for right now. We're in a pre-market session. These will start filling up as we move on, after the market opens. So in the pre-market right now, we see that the VWAP price, the volume weighted average price so far in the pre-market hours is $414, right? And the total dollar value of all the trades in a pre-market is $430 million, 430.6 million. So far in a pre-market, if we compared it to the 30-day average, it's about half of what usually trades, but we're still in the pre-market session of about 804 million. And this kind of gives us the trends. This is the last 30 days. If we compared the last 30 days to the previous 30 days, we could see that volume is starting to tick up in a pre-market. So the last 30 days volume in the pre-market is up 34% if we compared it to the previous 30 days. Okay, so that's so far in a pre-market hours. Now, when you click on these, or you could go over to here, we could start looking more at the minute by minute trading, which allows us to start digging deeper and deeper into the volume, the price action, the trade conditions, how things are trading, to get, more insights what's going on. So right now, what we're doing is in the first phase of the analysis, as we start parsing this data, what we did was start to isolate large volume bursts to see, well, what's happening in the very large volume bursts where somebody appears that they're coming in with big intent, that in a big volume that we don't typically see, on average from minute to minute, right? So these are the volume bursts. These are the pre-market ones right now. So this is in the pre-market, we detected 4 volume bursts on the buy side, 1 on the sell side. And we'll go into that. So far we had, out of the 4 volume bursts, the total dollar value was 46.5 million. Okay, for an average weighted price of $413.66. And the average tick or impact was up 13 cents. All right, so we're measuring when they come in, what is the impact to the stock on average? So 13 cents if we measured it from the previous VWAP to the next. And if we wanted to go and look at it, here are the times that they happened. 7:13. If you click on it, it takes you. So here we had a burst at 7:13. You could see of $6.3 million worth of stock, 15,337 traded in that minute. It was on an uptick. So we looked at it as that there must have been a buy burst, because for an uptick, you had to go, right, take off limit orders off the book to push that stock higher. So we had it right around 413.83, the first one. Here's the second one, 755, $7.5 million worth. You could see on an uptick here, and then at 8 o'clock. Here's at 8 o'clock, another one. This one was a big one, 42 cents for 27.3 million shares. Okay, so these are just looking at things that are, more unusual for this time of day. Okay, so we're measuring it by the time of day, and we're looking at historical averages and benchmarks of intraday volumes to detect, well, here's one that's that's more unusual in as far as volume goes, and then we're picking those out. Okay, so those are the 3 volume bursts that we detected. And again, at 7 o'clock, the volume, these could be different than at 8 o'clock. All right, so at 8 o'clock, the volumes start picking up. So we're taking that into account. All right, so keep that in mind. It's for that period and time of day is what we're comparing it. All right. So one here at 7:03, we saw a sell, $9.7 million worth of stocks traded over here on a downtick. So if we compare that, are these a lot or a little? We could compare it to the last 30 days, and we could see, on average, we have 5 bursts to the upside, 6 to the downside. So these are not, nothing like crazy, probably within the expected range. On the day, $92 million worth of buy bursts, 136 million versus sell bursts. These are just the averages for the 30 days. And if we look at the price impact, on average 12 cents to the upside, 15 cents to the downside. So these are all within the range. So it's just telling us, yes, they exist. We detected a couple of them today. We see there's more buys than sells. We see that the VWAP price so far, where they occurred, we see the price impact. We see the time of day that these happen, so we could correlate maybe to some news we could take a look at and see if there's something out there during this time. Maybe more earnings start to get reported at 8 or whatever. And they're not, but they're not right now. If we compared them to usually what happens, in the pre-market hours, so far we look like we're in range, right? Nothing that unusual because buy bursts happen lots of time. There are times when bigger institutions, bigger players, bigger hedge funds, maybe even professional, market makers, whatever, they need to buy stock. They see the liquidity or sell it, and they could go in there and do a big trade. But these happen, but we just keep track of them to see what's going on, right? What happens afterwards and so forth. So far, these are in line. We measure the price impact to see the liquidity as well, right? So if if we start seeing much, higher average, much bigger moves than averages than the liquidity, the price impact is letting us know that, hey, things are becoming more liquid and people have to who have to buy on these volume bursts have to pay up more, right? The higher you're driving the prices on your buy burst, the less liquid it is, the more fee you're paying to get in or get out. Right. So that's what it's measuring. The total price impact of this. Let's go to somebody asked. So that's for the pre-market. You could do the same thing for after hours. And so this is the VWAP for yesterday. So this is yesterday's because regular trading hours isn't open yet. So we're set to yesterday. If you wanted to go back days, you can. So in yesterday, we could see that we had a total of 8 buy bursts, 7 sell bursts in SPY. And keep in mind, look, SPY, it could be for lots of reasons. Hedging, there are people with baskets of stocks that could be part of SPY or futures, whatever. I'm just looking at this as an example to show what went transpired here, but SPY is an ETF of the S&P 500. So lots of things and lots of reasons these things could be going on. So as far as the number goes, almost even 8 versus 7, but they are above what we usually see. So there was more activity, more participation yesterday as far as the number of bursts. And if we took the cumulative dollar value of these bursts, we see 2 billion versus 1.6, which is higher on both sides, right, than the averages. So we typically will see 1.2 billion, 1.1 billion on the sell side. So on both sides, above average, favoring more the buy side yesterday. So slightly more in favor of the buy side than the sell side from what we found. And it looks like a lot of them came at the end of the day. Right. I'm just looking at up here. These were all I guess maybe some distributed in the beginning and then jumped to the end of the day. VWAP price looks like $413.72 on the buy side, $413.09 on the sell side. Price impact 27 cents to the buy side, 24 cents to this. So it was a little bit less liquid to the buy side than sell side. Right. Slightly higher impact to buy the stock, not as liquid, right? A little bit than to the sell side. So could have just meant when they access it, the order book wasn't as thick. Had to step, so you had to step up a little bit more, or they were more willing to pay, to get in. But this is just what we're taking an indication. But it's also kind of within range, right? It's not that far away from what these typically look like. If we wanted to go and look at the actual ones, if you click on these minutes, it tells you, where it happened, right? So 356. So here's one where we see almost $300 million worth, right? There's a buy burst, so we had 2 sells and then a buy, right? So looked like came in, sold, and then at that point, maybe somebody stepped up and said, buy. But that's how it transacted in those last, couple minutes going in. So it's basically both sides were trying to do stuff. And that's probably where also the order book gets a little bit thicker right towards the end as well. And people want to, on both sides, balance out their positions, right? Going out, before the market closes. We could take a look at yesterday's after hours too. So let's take a look at the after hours. So after hours, something, similar. We had, 5 buy versus 4 sell. Okay. 183.5 million on the buy side, 202 on the sell side. These are the VWAP prices. These are the price impacts, which seem to me that close to the averages. Maybe slightly more on the buy side from the last 30 days. And we could also see that in the last 30 days that the impact on the sell side was less liquid than on the buy side, right? So when those sell bursts came in, it looks like on average, they had to step down a little bit more, cost a little bit more to get out than to get in. So I went over these, quickly and we pushed some of these features we just pushed out yesterday. That's why I wanted to kind of go over how to read them, especially like these 30 days we added. You can go back days. And going forward, just so you get used to it, because we'll start adding more insights and analytics on the intraday data, so you could get better ideas of what's going on. All right, like better ideas how things are trading, what's going on, who might be doing what, and so forth, and what time of day. So, I think we'll talk more and more about it in the coming days. So,
All right, we're right up against the opening. Great job, as always. Chameleons, thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, you can always email support@MarketChameleon.com. Great job again, D. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Stay safe out there. Have a great weekend, and hope to see you guys on Monday.
Trade in peace, Chameleons. Everyone have a great weekend. Bye-bye.